Hello, everyone. Thank you all for making it on time. My name is Linda Nsifo, and I am the founder of Women in RMEL, which is basically an online community for women in the research, monitoring, evaluation, and learning sector. So basically, we seek to accelerate the RMEL careers of women all over the world. And today we have in our midst a special guest. I will introduce her very soon. But in the meantime, please do well to introduce yourselves in the chat, and also do well to share the link with your colleagues as well. It's going to be an interesting discussion. Okay, so I will share the agenda in a bit. Okay. So basically, this is what we'll be doing today. So at this point, we are just doing introductions. So if you haven't introduced yourselves, please do well to do that. And then I will introduce our speaker for today. And then she will give her talk, after which we'll have a Q&A. And then I'll give some announcements and also share a feedback form with everyone to fill so that we can take your feedback on how we can improve. And then we'll have a closing session. Okay, so I will stop sharing. And just a few housekeeping rules. So please, if you're not speaking, kindly mute yourself. If you want to speak, please raise your hand and you'll be given the opportunity to speak. Thank you very much. Okay, so I will introduce our speaker. Okay, so our speaker is in the person of Tamar Boddé-Kekana, and she's a Senior Education MERL Specialist at Khulisa Management Services with more than 10 years experience in quantitative and qualitative research, methodology, data analysis, monitoring and evaluation, and quality assurance. Tamar's sectoral experience includes education, career guidance, and skills development, hybrid learning, technology and development, child and youth development, community and civic engagement, youth mobilization, social entrepreneurship, and cross-cultural learning and engagements. She started a career center at Monash in South Africa with a focus on youth entrepreneurship, leadership, employability, and skills development. So without much ado, I would like to welcome Madam Tamar to share what her experience has been in the M&E sector as an expert. So Tamar, please, over to you.
Thank you. You made me sound way cooler than I really am, but I really appreciate it. Sure. Just going to share my screen quickly because, can we all see?
Yes, please.
So I've put my email address down there. If anyone wants to contact me at any moment, please do. Look, I know that I'm supposed to be talking about my M&E journey, but I want to share a little bit about my experience, but hopefully make it a lot more about you and have it resonate with you as such. So, brief introduction. I was born and raised in the Netherlands, which you probably can hear because I have a weird accent. But I've lived in South Africa for the past 15 years. I really have a background in psychology, and particularly neuropsychology, and I really loved it. Don't get me wrong. I loved data as well. I love data analysis. The difficulty with something like neuropsychology is that, this is going to sound horrible, but you kind of have to wait for someone to have a particular condition in order to map their brain. I can't really go around bashing into people's heads and then looking at, oh, what does that do? So for me, not that that is my violent streak, but it didn't give me the immediate sort of gratification of, okay, what are we going to do with this data? What are we going to do with everything that we discover? So I pivoted a little bit, and I kind of looked for other opportunities to learn and other opportunities to work. And as research and statistics were something that interested me, that was always a driver. So I ended up venturing into creating a volunteer program at the university that I studied at. And then through my master's thought, you know what? Our institution actually needs an evidence-based portfolio to see what are our programs actually doing. So that's kind of my biggest introduction into M&E, moving from research thinking or social research thinking into, okay, now where do we go with this information? But that was my master's. And then, as you know, careers develop in the weirdest ways possible. And so I ended up working at student services at that same institution. And so suddenly I saw myself work with admissions, enrollment, the whole student life cycle up until and including graduation. And then, because I was quite interested in that, I ended up starting the Career Center at Monash University. And so it was more a focus of, okay, what are you doing during your studies, but what can you also do thereafter? And I moved into that field, realizing that, oh, wait, actually, A, I enjoy this, and B, I really like to see other people discover their passions and their strength. So that was something that was always in the back of my mind. But it was kind of more than that. It was trying to have other people vocalize their own passions and strengths. So I'm hoping I'm able to do that with some of you here today as well. And so I ended up working at higher education institutions for almost a decade. So then how did I get here? How did I actually end up at Khulisa Management Services? And how did I go into M&E? So Khulisa was looking for what they advertised as an education expert or specialist. And I thought, well, yeah, I'm an expert. I mean, I did a lot of content development. I lectured. I know the student life cycle so well. So yeah, great. I applied. And by then I'd also invested quite a lot in things like positive psychology, different monitoring and evaluation methods. And, oops, sorry. Thank you. Sorry about that. So I'd invested in a whole bunch of different sort of knowledge building things, really. And so I kind of want to walk you through the journey that I call, as a joke, by the way, sort of the magic formula for an M&E professional. My magic formula might differ from yours, so keep that in mind. So what is mine? I really always loved social research. It was something I was passionate about. I really enjoyed statistics. Sorry, if you don't mind turning off the mic, I can hear myself double. Thank you. So yeah, like I said, I always loved social research. I was interested in, you know, all the cliches, helping people, lecturing, teaching, and all of that type of stuff. But what I really noticed is throughout my life and from quite a young age, and I know that those opportunities are different in different countries, but in the Netherlands, young adults and even teenagers can start working quite early on in their life. And so that's something that I did. And so I worked a whole host of different types of jobs, right? I've literally done everything. But the common denominator in each of those jobs was that I would come in and me, my big mouth, would identify areas of improvement and then come up with a plan to solve them. So as annoying as it might have been for everyone else, it did really help. And so I then started seeing that as a strength. Maybe sometimes I'm called to be somewhere to just shake things up a little bit. And then what I had to try and do is embrace imposter syndrome. Now, I know that we all suffer from this at different stages and in different ways. And sometimes you feel like you don't belong. And in my case, at times it was like, well, I come from this higher education background. I've done all these things. What do I know about data quality assessments? What do I know about all this stuff? And I then started seeing imposter syndrome kind of as a strength. And I started looking at it differently. And the way to turn it into a strength is to really say, am I pushing forward in the right way? Am I answering questions in the way that I should? Am I asking questions in the way that I should? And the beauty about that, sorry guys, I can hear another microphone. Thank you. So what it does for me is yes, it has that whole insecurity part, but it also pushes me. And it pushes me to ask questions that I otherwise wouldn't necessarily ask. And it pushes me to stay humble in the sense that I will never go into a room and be like, well, I know everything, so what can you tell me? Or talk to a client that I'm trying to help and be like, oh yeah, no, that's fine. I know what you mean. This is what you need. I use it as a strength in terms of listen, learn and listen and see how you can make that insecurity into more of a curiosity, which is something that's really important in M&E. And then the last thing, and again, such a cliche, but continue to learn. And I continue to challenge myself. So if I haven't done something before, not a problem. I will dive in head first and I'm going to try it. And I'm going to learn from my colleagues, and I'm going to learn from colleagues that started yesterday and have never been in M&E, because they come with fresh perspectives as well. So that is kind of my magic formula. But the key to M&E is, if you're interested in research, right? That's awesome, you know, but how do you now go to evaluation? Yes, you collect your data, but what are you now going to do with it? What does that data say about a project or about an organization? So the big thing to do is, after you have all this data that you can also have through regular research, the next question becomes, so what? So what? I have all this data. What does this mean? What can I do with this? What does it say about a project? What does it say about a certain part of a project? And how do you communicate that with a client? So an example of that would be is that I currently work for a funder who funds students to go through university in South Africa. And it's not just a case of here's some money, good luck, study, but they have built an entire infrastructure around how students learn, how they can be supported, and that includes psychosocial support, academic support, all of those type of things. And they collect amazing data. I've legitimately never seen anything like this before. And for all of you that work in M&E, you'll know that data comes back as a nice mess, if I can say it in the nicest way, very often. But in this case, that's not true. Their data is stunning, but then they didn't do so much with it. So now, as an outsider, as someone who knows the education environment, I'm using my background as my strength. I came in and said, okay, cool. What data have you got? Great. Had a look at everything, and then started to slowly but surely unpack all these different things. So what we did was we looked at how the overall program was performing over the past few years. And And now we're at such a stage that each and every year we can just add the new branch. So we can say now we can look at 2022 data, and next year we can look at 2023 data, and just add it on so that we learn more and more as we go. But because they fund students from very different areas of study, I could also isolate that and say, okay, as an example, how are their engineering students doing? How are they performing academically? How are they doing emotionally? Which institution do they go to? And where do we see the most dropouts? What year, what institution, what subject or module leads to those dropouts? And that type of information for a program that funds students with the idea of getting them through higher education successfully is really invaluable, because now they get to make decisions of, okay, look, we have this program, we're funding this particular study at this particular institution. Is it worth continuing with that or not? So that's an example of where I use my background as a strength. But I also have situations, and I can see there's some of my colleagues on the call, so they're going to laugh about this one. But so we also have a project where it's one funder and then like a whole host of different projects that are being funded. And so we are now tasked to look at, okay, are the objectives of each and every individual beneficiary, are they achieved? But I can tell you now that these projects fall under, one is in the animation industry, two are in agriculture, one is savings groups, the other one is sort of in wildlife preservation. So there's literally, you can't find one expert that knows about all of these things. So now I'm like, okay, how do I use my background as a strength in a program like that? And I realized that, okay, through that career center that I built at Monash, South Africa at the time, what I enjoyed was I was able to have other people explore their passions and find their strengths. That's something I'm good at. Great, I'll bring that into this. What I also really enjoy is lecturing. And I know that I can explain difficult concepts in very easy terms. Now, I'm going to give you a bit more background about this project, because when we came in, and you might find this as an M&E professional, and maybe even more so as a female in M&E, that you're often observed as like, oh no, someone is coming into our organization telling us what we're doing wrong. There's a huge audit. They're going to just come up with this report about how the quality of what we're doing is terrible. And so you often come in with people that aren't necessarily the most welcome, and they look at you as though you're a threat to the organization. And that is where my strength was. You know what I can do? I can do stakeholder management. I can make sure that after one meeting, not only do the clients trust us, they know what we're about to do. They know that we're not there to criticize anything, but that we're really there to work alongside of them, to sort of mold their project into what it needs to be, and to measure what they've already done, which there are so many unintended benefits in any single project. So that is something to keep in mind. For me, that was a strength where I thought, okay, this is what I can do. I know nothing about the animation industry, but I do know how to work with people. So this is how we're going to work together. And yes, I understand that industry knows nothing about M&E. Not a problem. Let me take over where I can take over, and let me talk about how I'm going to do that, in what way, how they can collaborate with me, and just to really put everything into very simple terms, so that everyone is on the same page. I feel like I've talked a lot about myself now. So what is your magical formula? Thing to keep in mind is, you know, what are you passionate about? What is it that you love? That is one of the most important things. And that doesn't mean that we can all go around doing exactly what we really love to do. The world isn't built like that, unfortunately. We can't always do that, but you can bring it in. So wherever you can, bring that passion in to whatever project you're working on, whatever career you end up in. And the same thing for your educational or your vocational background. Use it as your strength. The fact that a lot of my colleagues have studied development studies or international studies, and some have done sociology, we're all from different areas. Some have done an MBA, but all of those are strengths because we can find different things there that really work well together and that we can use on different projects. I've talked about imposter syndrome a little bit. Try and embrace it. Try and think, yeah, okay, maybe I don't feel comfortable, but that uncomfortableness, that is what's going to push you to learn more, to do better, and to absorb everything. So kind of pair it with listening and with sort of a healthy sense of curiosity, and then continue to learn and challenge yourself. And that can be in different ways to monitor or evaluate projects. So those are things that you're going to have to learn, you're going to have to look at. But it could also be new tools that you can use. I mean, learn more and more, see how those tools can help you along the different paths of monitoring and evaluation, and just realize that you're not limited to just one thing. The nice thing is that your magic formula is the combination of all these unique factors. No one's like you. No one has the exact same background, the exact same passions, the exact same way of dealing with stress, exact same way of learning and challenging yourself. So you are unique, and that is your magic formula. So if you're keen to sort of move your monitoring and evaluation career forward, and that could be as an emerging evaluator, could be as someone who has literally never thought about M&E, but could be a consultant in areas of expertise. Honestly, if someone on this call is an animation expert, by all means, please sign up, because we need you. But we literally look at this database daily. So once I'm out of the presentation, I'll put the link in the chat for you guys as well. But you could also just go to khulisa.com. You'll see staff, and you'll be able to find our recruitment site. The cool thing is that we don't just post the opportunities that we currently have, but we allow you to register your CV. So we allow you to upload your CV so that in the future, and I promise you, we use this search engine or this database daily, we might actually need you. We might actually need someone with your unique magic formula. So yeah, please do sign up if that's what you want to do. And we're kind of always looking for consultants. So here's my contact details. Like I said, and without trying to sound arrogant, but one of the things that I'm good at is finding out what your strength is and helping you vocalize it, even if I don't know you, even if I haven't met you. I enjoy talking to people and listening to your expertise. So if you do want to contact me, if you've got questions about anything, or if you're worried about your career trajectory, or you want to do something completely different, please just reach out. You can reach out to me via email anytime. Add me on LinkedIn. I will happily connect with you. I very often post opportunities for others in the industry and in different industries. So I'd like to keep that open and to create a community where we all help each other out, just like the Women in RMEL community. So that's why I'm so happy to be a part of this community. From my side, that's it. I don't know if there's any questions, or I'll happily stop sharing my screen if that helps.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you so much, Tamar. I believe people might have questions that they would want to ask you. So at this juncture, I would like to invite anyone who has any question. You can unmute yourself, or you can also type in the chat window. Yeah, I'll just give people here some few minutes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll just go to the questions that were sent before this meeting.
Yeah, we can
yeah,
also
then
do
we
that.
can
We can talk about
talk.
those. And
Yeah.
then if anyone has anything else to ask, please just plonk it in the chat.
Yeah. Okay, so first question goes like this. What difference in competencies have you noticed between emerging, into bracket, not necessarily youth, but starting, versus youth, also into brackets, young and starting in the industry?
So how I understand this question is that you've got people like me who aren't like super young and weren't fresh out of university or fresh into the workforce and then moved into M&E. And then you've got people who are fresh and then move into M&E.
Yeah.
I find this so hard to answer without generalizing. And so I think there's two things that I want to say about that. What I've noticed is that those that are young and fresh out of university and just starting sometimes don't realize the value that people have that are already in the industry, that know a lot. And you might look at it and go like, oh, but at university or wherever it may be, I learned to do this very differently. But just trust the fact that people in the industry, they've seen a lot of different situations. So they really do know what they're talking about. That's not to say that you don't have value to add as a young and emerging evaluator, because you absolutely do. But it's, for me, I think it's finding that perfect balance of, oh, I'm going to speak up and feel like, oh, there might be something new. And I'm going to listen and sit back and learn. And that's a difficult balance to find. But I've seen that balance is sometimes a little bit off with people that are just starting in the workforce. And that's coming from someone, so I don't know if you know a lot about Dutch culture, but we are very direct. So for me to say something like that means that, okay, so you just, compose yourself and speak to those in the industry in a certain way, connect with them, learn from them. I think that's the biggest difference. Don't just wait passively for someone to give you work or for someone to let you do something. But I think the biggest thing, sorry, I keep adding on to this now, very long answer, but the biggest thing is if you do find an issue somewhere, if you identify something that you don't agree with, there's A, ways in which to communicate that, and B, come with a solution. So there's no use in sitting somewhere and going, oh, that won't work. Okay, cool, what will? Give us an idea. So come into a conversation like that and saying, oh, that's really interesting, but have you thought about this way? And that's a skill that people who have been in the workforce a little bit longer often have, more so than new, sort of the new workforce.
Yeah. All right. I hope whoever asked this question is satisfied. Yeah. So these questions were sent in anonymously. So yeah. Okay. So I'll just read out a few comments in the chat there for you, Tamar. So someone said, so Zamo said, thanks so much, Tamar. Great presentation, such an interesting journey. And then Meryl Lynn said, thanks, Tamar. I appreciate how you demonstrate there are so many pathways into M&E.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, is where, the workforce of today has the most crazy backgrounds. Like we do the weirdest stuff and it's fine. It's no longer like our parents or our parents, they would go to universities to start something. They know there's a job waiting for them at the end. They start at the bottom of a company and they work themselves up.
Yeah.
It's just not how it works anymore.
Yeah.
You literally go from industry to industry, level to level, and sometimes your career goes like this and sometimes it plummets and then takes a completely different turn. So
that's true.
I like that, but it is a bit nerve-wracking.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, personally for me as well, I studied oceanography and fisheries for my undergrad. Then I continued with a master's in marine biodiversity and conservation. And then
Wow.
along the line, I developed interest in tech. And yeah, because I didn't find something immediately in my area, like, what I studied, I decided to go into the tech sector because I personally think I have a flair for those things as well, aside being passionate about environmental issues. So then I worked with a company that specializes in data collection and management, an IT firm, basically. So I picked up new skills. Yes, I was assigned to take on the role as a data impact coordinator. So then I started working with data a lot and also supporting projects with their data collection. And that was actually like my first dive into M&E. So then I started, exploring, and then I also developed my interest in that area. And currently I now work with an environmental NGO, but also in MEL. So as a MEL officer, but in an environmental space. So I mean,
that's awesome.
as Marilyn said, there are different pathways into M&E. So you come in with a certain background, and then you enter into M&E with all the skills that you've picked up from different areas. So it's it might not be a straightforward route. It's not linear, but I mean it works out some way somehow.
Yeah, I mean, you're the perfect person to work on any just transition projects. I mean, we need so many experts in that area. So I love that. I love hearing these stories.
Yeah. Okay, Zamo, you have your hand up. Please go ahead and ask your question or give your comments.
Not really a question, it's a comment.
Okay. Yes, please.
Just to add on what you're saying with regards to the fact that there's many pathways to M&E. Like, it's interesting how the growth and how we are now understanding that like it's basically from almost every field. But so it's a matter of, I think, making people out there realize, because you find that in a whole lot of good projects, there's, like Tamar was saying, that there's a lot of collected data, good data, but it's not being analyzed or put into good use. So it's up to us as M&E professionals to go out there, or to make the awareness, push the awareness basically on the M&E systems and putting systems into place. Basically, because mostly what happens is that when M&E team comes into a project, it's like we are going to assess the project, or like we come in as bad people that we are now assessing their, I don't know, if they are doing things right or wrong, while actually we are coming in to assist and make sure that what they are doing shows impact at the end, especially the monitoring part, because often you find that the companies are supposed to now evaluate the impact at the end, but they haven't been monitoring their systems and like throughout the project. So to emphasize the importance of doing their M&E right from the beginning. So it's just a matter of I don't know, educating or like putting the weight out there. It's up to us as M&E professionals to be heard, to go out there and make an impact basically.
But I love that, because it's also, everyone within M&E has a different background and different strengths. So someone might be amazing at data analysis and they can deal with big data and then come up with conclusions, but they might not be the person that can then translate into something that the client can use. So the so what then sometimes comes from someone else. So I love that. It's so true. We're not the bad guys. We're trying to help.
We just need to make them understand that, and like you're saying, that bringing in the different skill sets, the different backgrounds. So Thanks, Tamar.
Very
again.
true. Thank you, Samu.
Okay, so I'll move on to Chanda. I hope I pronounce your name correctly. So yeah, Chanda, please go ahead.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, Tamar. I just want to acknowledge the fact that I love the way your attitude towards learning. You know, the attitude that says I don't know it all. I'm not an I know it all person. I'm willing to learn from anybody, and it doesn't matter how far from anyone. That's such a great attitude. Then my network was acting up just after your presentation, so I'm hoping that I'm not asking a question that somebody else has asked. So what would you advise somebody that has developed interest into M&E, a certain sector like an E, or it can work well in isolation without any other sector coming into play, such that I can, be open to all other opportunities that are coming from the different sectors. So does it always have to be, whether it's social sciences, qualification or whatsoever, or it can work in isolation without being backed up by anything else?
Okay, sorry, Chanda, you were breaking up a little bit. So I think what I understood is that the question was, do you always have to have a particular background, either in social sciences or elsewhere, in order for you to then move that forward in M&E? Am I getting that correct?
Perfect, you got it right.
Okay, okay, great.
The rest was just an elaboration.
Sorry, no, thank you. I don't think so. I honestly think that anyone from any background with any type of education as well can become an M&E professional. But it's about attitude, and it's about having that so what type of vision. So, and that can come from anywhere. Anyone that's hungry to learn, that wants to climb up in the industry, or that wants to learn more about different sectors can do so. There's literally nothing stopping you. I mean, there are so many different online courses available that you can do for free. There's so much software that is open source that you can sort of specialize in without any background in any of these things. But if that becomes your strength, that is something you can bring into an M&E career. I mean, someone who is amazing at, and maybe only has a retail background or a management background, they could be amazing at coordinating field work and making sure that the training goes a certain way, and that the field workers do what they're supposed to be doing, and that the data collected is of high quality. And from there, you can then move into completely different sectors. I mean, I'm working on some projects where I'm not in those sectors. It's like, I'm not in agriculture. I'm not in, again, sorry to keep mentioning the animation industry, but I'm just not in it. But that doesn't mean that I can't add value. And so I think, again, it all starts with finding your own passions and finding your own strength. And sometimes that feels very unnatural, because it feels like, oh, and especially, and sorry, it's a generalization, but especially as women, we are almost groomed not to think that way. We're almost groomed not to be like, well, I'm really good at this, and then be proud of it. We're like, oh, I think I'm good at this, sorry. But no, be proud of it, because you are good at something. And whatever that may be, make that your strength and bring that into the industry. That was the longest answer once again. Sorry, guys.
Not to be sorry, thank you. That was so helpful.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Thank you all for your comments. So just a few more questions. So the next one goes like this. What makes a strong M&E structure string data processes, strong evaluation, strong pre-planning, or other?
Okay. I mean, the simplest thing would be all of the above, I guess. I mean, pre-planning is really, really important, right? And piloting things is really important because you can't just go in, and again, that comes back to like, you can't walk in there and be like, I know all the things. Let me collect all this data and it's going to go amazing in one go and no one's going to have a question, or that's just not how real life works. So all the different processes have a place. The biggest thing I think to keep in mind always is ethics. So we're, especially at Khulisa and my colleagues here on the call as well, we're all very big on, yes, we can pre-plan, but the client, whoever funds us, needs to be aware of what we're planning and needs to understand what we're doing. So we need to translate it into a language that's understood by all of us. Then when we do go out to get data, we have an obligation to the people that we're collecting the data from to provide them with results and say, like, actually, remember that those like 50 questions we asked you, this is what we did with that information and this is how it can help you. So yeah, strong processes is to think about everything, to constantly pivot, to constantly adapt. And I think that's, you know, one of the top skills that people need to have in any career at this stage is adaptability. Things are not going to go your way immediately. So how do we move along like sort of a non-linear path? I hope that answers it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, so I think we have like 3 more, but I mean, if people on the call also want to ask, please feel free to raise your hand, or you can also type in the chat window. Okay, so the next one is, what is the future of M&E with new technology springing? Yeah,
I think that's a big one, right?
Yeah.
Are we going to be replaced? Look, big fan of technology, big fan of tools that can make your life and your work easier. So there are tools in every sort of step of M&E. There are planning tools, there are project management tools, there are communication tools like Zoom, because we can't always see each other and we're in completely different locations. So yes, there's going to be tools everywhere. And so it's really important for people to learn about those tools and to keep up to date with those type of developments. The one thing that tools can't always do correctly is bring in data from completely different sources, combine qualitative and quantitative data, look at very complex projects. And yes, the technology can help us collect that data, but it's not going to ask the so what question. That's what you are there for. So you need to start making sense of that data. And yeah, there are also ways in which technology and certain data analysis programs can help you with that. But again, what they will show is just what the data says. It's research. This is what you've collected. This is what it says. It doesn't tell you what it means. There's a big difference there. So I don't think that we're going to be replaced anytime soon, but I do think that, yeah, use technology whenever you can. Learn about new things. And it's also important when you interact with clients that you can say, look, you don't need to buy this insanely expensive tool that we need to use. There are open source tools available that we can use. Let us help you. And that can be your value add. And again, you didn't work in that industry necessarily. You could just tell them what to use, right?
Yeah, I agree. So people can, for example, maybe specialize in the use of a particular M&E tool, and then they can train, you know, organizations, NGOs, CSOs, and so on how to use that particular tool to collect their data, manage their data, and do develop their reports. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it will be different for every organization, because one tool can collect the same type of things, but the organization might not need the same type of things. So it's good to have like a critical thinker behind that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, 2 more to go. So do you have any advice for a mature professional who is making a transition into M&E? What are essential skills that they need to acquire?
Oof. I mean, I'm one of them and I'm still going through this journey, guys. I've said it before, but I think just have an inquisitive mind. Keep asking questions. There's no such thing as stupid questions. Keep an open mind. Learn from those that are also new in the industry. Learn from those that have been in the industry. Keep up to date with development. Just read. Read as much as you can, and then apply where you can. But the biggest thing still, and I'm sorry I'm saying it again, but find your strength, find what you can bring to the table, because I promise you, even if you think it's nothing, even if you think, but I don't have a fancy degree, I don't have all this fancy background, that doesn't matter. If you are a really good listener and you are able to extract pieces of information from what a client is telling you that your colleagues are like, oh, I'm already like halfway through the data collection. You're like, no. I actually think they're saying this. You don't need a degree for that. You need to have an inquisitive mind. So find your strength and learn how to vocalize it. Learn how to write it down. Put that on your CV. That's also, oh yeah, if you do want to send your CV to me directly for me to have a look at, and to make some comments on, that's also fine, right? My email is in the chat.
Great. Okay, so 1 more to go here. So what were some of the key drivers which helped you develop from emerging evaluator to an expert?
I think the biggest thing is to sometimes for me to just shut up and listen and just be like, okay, I think I know what I'm doing, but then this whole new concept comes through and like, oh, actually, maybe I can learn a lot more about that. So all of the things that I've mentioned before throughout the presentation really, I think, are important, but find that balance between I'm going to speak up and think in solutions versus let me sit back and listen first a little bit. Let me see what happens. And then you don't always have to have an answer right there and then. It is perfectly fine to say, look, this is something that I'm not an expert in. Let me speak to my colleagues and let me look this up. So working in a team will really help you grow in your career. It's not just about you. It's about a team as a whole. And again, I'm promoting Khulisa here, but our teams, our division has grown exponentially with fantastic colleagues. Almost none of them come from the M&E industry, but they are amazing. And they come in with fresh minds and all of these questions that I was like, oh, I took all of that for granted. I never even asked. And I'm supposed to be the senior here. So keep that open mind, and that will drive you through your career.
Awesome. Yeah, we've had some really good questions.
Yes,
so I'll just read, I think there's a comment in the chat from Chanda, and she said, M&E is beautiful. There's always something new to learn from the data. You go in with your skill set and come out with interesting lessons, and it will be great to always use the data to make changes in different sectors rather than us collecting data that we end up not knowing what to do with it. Thanks, Tamar, for the positive vibes that you brought up regarding M&E.
Oh, thank you,
Chanda.
Very right. I mean, there's so many, and Zam was also saying it, there's so many organizations that they have data, but then like it just sits there. So why would you collect it? Why would you burden people with that? And I think that also comes back to ethics. You collect something, you should use it in some way, shape, or form. And the use could be that you say, oh, actually, we don't need that data. So next time you don't collect it. That's also a finding, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, great. All right. Do we have any more questions? Esther, Jacqueline, Marilyn, Chanda, Zamal. Any more questions from anyone or any more comments? Okay, doesn't seem like anyone has anything to say. Yeah, so once again, we are grateful, Tamar, for your time with us and for sharing your knowledge. I personally have learned a lot from your talk, and I believe that many can attest to that here as well. Yeah, so yes, let's show our appreciation to Tamar. You can just thank her in the chat, or you can express your appreciation with an emoji. Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. I mean, an online community like this it's just really important, and I think it can only grow from here. So if we all use our networks to reach out and to get other females in the industry to join, I mean, the sky's the limit. We're going to go to very high places.
Yeah. And maybe just to rehash a few things that you said. So you said you are unique, and that's your magic formula. So everyone here, please make sure that you find out what you love doing and make sure you bring your strengths to the table. Everyone here is needed to grow the M&E sector. So don't feel like your background is not relevant. We've heard it from Tamar, coming purely from an education background, and look at where she is now. She said she's not even working on things that she's very familiar with, but you just need to have an open mind. You just need to be willing to learn and just grow as you move through the M&E career path. So thank you so much, Tamar.
100%, thank you.
Yeah. So I'll just drop a few things in the chat. So I'd like everyone here to provide feedback on our session. Just give me a second. And also we have a YouTube channel. So you can also watch previous recordings of our sessions. So let me just share the feedback form here. So that's the feedback form. And then I would also share the link to the Women in RMEL YouTube channel. So yeah, our session today will also be uploaded there as well. And with your permission, Tamar, would you mind having your presentation shared with the community?
Oh, not a problem. Yeah,
okay,
yeah, absolutely. Although I'm not sure you get that much from the slides, but yes.
Okay. So you can just put it in view mode, so no one can alter anything or edit.
No worries.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So so please do well to provide your feedback, and also go to the Women in RMEL YouTube page and view the other sessions that we've had as well. And also provide us with any suggestions you might have for our subsequent meetings. The plan is to have these sessions on a monthly basis, so we can grow the community and also to learn from each other as well. So I will also drop in a link to a Google Sheet where you can just type in suggestions on topics and also provide suggestions with regards to speakers as well. Just do that one thing and we'll be out of here very soon. Okay, so it's 5 p.m. GMT my time, and I believe it's 7 p.m. in South Africa.
7 p.m.
All right.
Side.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, and big shout outs to the Khulisa team as well for joining and being a part of this call as well. And yeah, looking forward to having you all next time. And do enjoy the rest of your week, everybody.
Same.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
much.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.